Today we're actually going to first off start with the harvesting of our sugar beets.
Yep, it is finally time.
Super exciting.
We're a bit afraid that if we leave this much longer, we won't get them out of the ground. They'll probably be fine, but we won't get them because today's the first morning where the ground was a little bit frozen.
Firm, yeah. There was a bit of a crusty layer. We have multiple places that we have these sugar beets. We have the raised garden bed. We have our blue barrel garden. Rooster. And we have 2 in-ground patches.
One advantage to doing this in the morning is we're going to feed quite a bit of these tops to the rabbits kind of as we pick them. There's more here than they'll be able to eat, but we're also going to, some of these smaller ones that are more tender and haven't quite wilted, we're going to try because apparently they're edible. We've never actually tried it. We're going to cook them up basically like a stir-fry type method because, I don't know, we have tried them just raw. We're not a big fan, but we're not a big fan of raw Swiss chard either. So we're starting with the raised bed. You can see this is actually kind of frozen on here, the soil. But this was a late planted bed, like a really late planted bed. So we're not necessarily expecting this is going to do amazing. As you can see, this is not an excellent example of a root. By any means.
It's very poor. Look at it.
But it will still yield sugar, so we're still going to wash it up and get that sorted. But yeah, this is not a good example.
There's definitely some frosting on the outside of these, but we're going to try and get this going into our sugar and syrup sooner than we did last year. Last year they sat for quite a few months.
And they weren't stored very well.
Yes, so we're going to do better this year. Stay tuned for that, though. Chris is basically doing these the same way we did our Detroit red beets, leaving 1.5 to 2 inches of the tops on there. We're going to start with that anyways and see what happens. Hopefully it will not cause any issues as they start to die back.
You can see they got a little bit of frost.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because usually with the sugar beets, that just kind of ups the sugar content.
Yeah, just makes them sweeter.
We finished up the raised bed. We were a little bit disappointed because they were quite small, but there is multiple factors for that.
Well, and they grew weird.
They grew weird. They were late. They probably didn't get as much moisture. So now we're on to the blue barrel, and to look at them, I have a feeling these, which were also planted late, look like they did a lot.
Pull one out.
I'm gonna try.
Pick a really good one.
Good one. How about this guy? Oh, we're gonna get a whole cluster.
Oh. They're all frozen together.
These are pretty decent.
Well, from this angle, it just looks like a lot of dirt.
Yeah, I gotta knock the dirt off. But
yeah, they look a lot better.
They're a lot bigger, which means there'll be more sugar.
So I think we saved the best one out of here for last.
I think so, from the looks of it.
It's got some beautiful, nice fresh tops that we're going to keep for ourselves to add to our little pile.
Because it's easy now, I'm going to cut them out. That one's fine too, actually.
So there's our little pile of fresh tops to try making into a little bit of a stir fry. See what that tastes like. But let's see what she's got. Oh, it's a stunted. Big top, not as much on the bottom. I thought for sure it was going to be quite big down into the bottom. Oh, see, that's pretty big.
It's a good size one. It's our biggest one yet out of the beds. Raised beds. You see, these were all an afterthought, so.
Well, and we'll link below, not below, sorry. We'll link up above here the harvest from last year. So you can see we maybe got one that size out of our whole harvest. And we've already got quite a few of that size. So it's going to be a much better sugar beet year. Between the raised bed and the blue bucket garden, we've gotten this so far. Not stellar, but definitely some really nice sized ones. We're kind of aiming for hopefully at least 10, maybe 12 really nice ones to set aside to collect for seed next year. Or grow for seed next year.
That's the plan.
That's the plan, hopefully. We're going to break before we start on the main garden and go and feed these green tops to the bunnies because they haven't had their breakfast yet and they're pretty hungry. So again, we're coming to one of our in-ground garden beds here with the beets, and they're small.
This was the last. bed planted.
Yeah,
though.
this was the last stuff that we planted. This was even after the raised beds in the bucket. So these have had probably, I would say, a month less time growing than our big garden, which we haven't shown that one yet because, of course, we're going to save the best for last.
This is similar to what we got last year, so they're still reasonable. And although they're small, it'd be nice to have bigger ones. We can still get sugar out of most of these. Still
loving the sugar beets. We've already made the decision time and time again now that these are going to be a staple on the farm. We're going to make this work. The ability to make sugar plus still have all this animal fodder, as you just saw, we're feeding to the bunnies. I guess you didn't see because I forgot to video it, but I'll video the next one.
Round 2.
Round 2 of feeding. I will video how much the bunnies seem to love these sugar beet tops. But we're going to keep going on this bed. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but stay tuned because the big bed and the big beets are coming.
Well, as we harvest this patch of late planted sugar beets, we have some rodent damage. So this is the second one that we've actually found this on. And these are just going to go to rabbit food because although the plant didn't die, it'll be a little hard to process these considering, like, I don't know, half of them is eaten away. It's interesting because they're quite resilient because, like I say, these survived. What I would say is quite a bit of damage.
That right there might be a seed keeper, or one that we're going to keep to grow next year to produce seed. Oh, maybe it's in the pile of potential keepers.
It's not bad for a
late planted one. I'm very curious what's going to come out of the other garden. So that's the end of round 2, our first little garden in the garden bed. So now we're about halfway full, not quite. A few little rogue onions that we found in there, some green onions that we can use. All in all, I think we're pretty impressed. We're probably pretty close to what we had last year, wouldn't you say?
I think we're more.
Potentially more. So we've got...
The average size of these is bigger than last year's.
Yeah. So
and these are not the biggest ones. We know there's bigger ones.
Yeah, we're saving the best for last. But first we're going to do a pit stop at the bunnies for round 2 and giving them some of these green tops. Tulip is happily enjoying her sugar beets. Or her sugar beet tops, I guess I should say. It's a wonderful snack for the bunnies. I think she approves. Definite approval here. They don't even care if they're a little bit brown. Now, for the real fun.
Last patch of sugar beets.
Last patch. So remember, we were kind of approaching the halfway mark. I bet you after this patch, we're going to be overflowing this bucket. Super exciting, but I think it's time to get to work.
Yep, finish this job.
The day is passing, and of course, first one he picks before I get the camera out. Look at that beauty. I think this patch is where our seed
I think so.
beets are going to come from. Look at that. It's one single stalk, no deformities.
And it's quite big.
And quite big. Put your hand beside it lengthwise so we can, yeah. Like, that's a big sugar beet.
Mm-hmm. And it's not the biggest one. I can see some that are bigger.
Oh, look at that excited face on him. He's so excited about his sugar beet harvest.
Get these out of the ground.
Let's do it. And one of the things that we're finding is this last patch here, they're all growing perfect.
Yep.
Single, yeah. Where the other ones, what we were seeing was almost like they'd hit a block. They'd gotten down to a certain point and then they'd hit it and they just went wide and produced multiple roots.
Which is still food.
Still works, but this is what we want. And we know this has been a garden for, well, this was our second year with this space as a garden. So I think that made a big difference to the ground quality for growing these. Geese are out for a stroll. Ignore all of the junk in the background. More to get done before winter. We still haven't even gotten to the big ones. I'm going to give you a sneak peek in there. Look at that one. Oh my goodness. So we're going to keep going, but we just wanted to point out that thing of this patch so far has produced all gorgeous single root straight ones, kind of like what we need to do with our carrots.
Look at that one.
Ho ho! That is a sugar beet extraordinaire right there. That's beautiful. We'll just get that little worm off there. Look at that. That's, I would say pushing close to 8 inches long. Probably more than that because my hand's 4 inches that way. So might be even over 8 inches. That is a beauty, and it's still not the biggest one we've gotten here.
Nice.
That is awesome.
This one's kind of interesting because something obviously happened there. It's got a pretty good growth off the side, which at first we wondered if it was a second beet, but it looks like it's just part of this one, so I'm not really sure.
It's a deformity of some sort.
Yep. But it'll still make sugar.
Maybe not the deformity part.
Possibly not. I don't know how we'd peel it. So one little thing about the sugar beets that I think's interesting to talk about or worthwhile mentioning is these are definitely one of those crops or plants that you can grow where they aren't pretty, to put it quite mildly. They're all different shapes. Yeah, they're just not a pretty plant by any means, but this is a very good case of beauty's only skin deep because, of course, these kind of ugly, lumpy, weird looking roots give us sugar, which is super sweet, so it's deceiving.
And here we have the last one, which I partially think might be the biggest one, but at the same time we've pulled a few other big ones. So let's see, Chris. Oh, he's a bit stubby. He was a bit stubby compared to the other ones.
He's big though.
But he's big. Holy, pound-wise, he might be the biggest. Look at all the little ones growing out the top of him.
Still sprouting off the top.
He's got tons of sprouts. He's going to be a good one for seed if he's already sprouting.
Yeah, potentially.
That is a big one. But here is our pile of relatively nice, uniform, big ones. There were some other nice sized ones that came out of the patch, but they weren't pushing the 8-inch long, fat, juicy, lovely ones. So we've said we would just show you the best of the best by the end. All in all, I would have to say amazing harvest. We're going to weigh this by the end of the video so that we can tell you how much we brought
see what we
in.
actually ended up with.
But the one thing I will say is I think just the best of the best big ones is way more weight than what we harvested last year.
Oh, they're huge compared to last year.
Huge.
Even some of the small ones are big compared to last year.
And the one thing I will say, when you make the syrup and the sugar, you do have to peel them. So those little ones, by the time you peel them, there's not a whole lot left. So this is awesome to get. Yeah. The big ones are going to provide a lot more to make the product. So
we'll discuss a little bit on the selection process in another video later.
Yeah. But, stay tuned for that on how we're going to.
Today,
we need to do a little bit more research, and we also need to do a bit more selection and cleanup. But all in all, fantastic harvest. Super excited. Sugar Beet Project 2.0. Awesome this year. Huge improvement over last year.
Yep. So we're going to go and get these weighed up and see what we ended up with.
All done, ready to take these in. Like I said, exploding out the top of that box. This is one of those totes from Home Depot. I think it's 64 liters, which is about 16 gallons. We have no idea how much it weighs. It takes the two of us to lift it though, so
pretty heavy.
It's pretty heavy, but we're gonna go see what it comes out to.
Well, we're back in the house, and we've got the sugar beets in, and what did we end up with?
84 pounds. That's huge. We should have actually done a quick check of what we harvested last year. We're just going to put the link above right now if you want to go see last year's harvest, because it was nothing compared to this year.
A lot smaller.
A lot smaller. So this is awesome. You saw some of the size on those, so stay tuned for a future video on...
I think, on doing the next step of this.
But also the savings for selection for seed.
Mm-hmm. I think
lots of sugar beet videos to come.
Oh,
Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited? I know you're excited.
But I think one little tip that we've definitely noticed is getting them in earlier seems to make a big difference.
Huge,
on the size.
Huge. We could definitely tell the ones that were added in later in the blank spots and
still
those
grew
couple
well,
that went
and you
lighter.
still got usable beet, but the ones that were planted earlier are way bigger.
So,
on that note, we're going
Stay
to,
tuned next. Here comes a cat. Stay tuned next year for what are we on now? Sugar Beets 4.0, 5.0, something like that.
something like that.